Good morning and welcome to Brewing Happiness. Monday morning, back again. Now, after vacation on Friday, it's kind of nice to get back to real life. Not quite there. Still have someone in my guest room till tomorrow, so not 100% back to normal. But here I am, and I am so dedicated to this show, and yet, even so, I find myself um, but I find myself a little bit, discouraged, a little bit. Sometimes I start feeling like, oh, some days no one watches, right? Some days I think, what am I doing? Who wants to listen to me? Some days I just think, hmm, I, it, I'm not that smart. I don't have that much to say. So I suppose in any long-term endeavor, right, you start to have these kinds of doubts. It's really just not realistic to expect that you're going to keep the same level of enthusiasm, optimism, positivity, um, charge, right? It's just maybe not that realistic to expect that. Um, it's not hard. No, that's not going to work, is it? That hard to expect that you're going to keep that level of intensity all the time. And so it's unrealistic to kind of feel inspired 24/7. And yet, this is a show about inspiration, about optimism, about positivity. And so I have to, and so I guess my job, the way to work this is to take the things I talk about here and put them into practice, right? To use the things we talk about staying happy, getting happy, being happy, and utilize them in my daily life. Good morning, Joanna and Debbie. And the truth is, I do use these things in my daily life. When I talk about ideas or things that are ways to be happier, these are things in most cases that I do have done and working on doing. Um, or at least I'm learning about them along with you, but I try to be honest when that's true as well. So here we are. One of the things, when you get to find this place, right, where you get to the point where you need some self-motivation or inspiration, this is the time to go to the tools in the toolkit, right? Easy to be happy when you feel great, but when you're feeling a little need for inspiration, this is the time to pull out the tools. One of the things I pull out a regular place. One of the things I do on a regular basis is I try to mirror my best Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And we all laughed at Stuart on Saturday Night Live, but the truth is he was on to something. Daily affirmations are absolutely one of the best ways to raise your natural everyday mood and positivity. And now a daily affirmation, you know what these are, right? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. They're statements that challenge our negative beliefs about ourselves, right? They're statements that state our our aspirations in a positive, doable framework. And they can be long, they can be short, simple, complex, as specific as we need them to be. But affirmations help shift our consciousness away from our perceived failures and shortcomings, right? And focus on our strengths and our positive qualities. And these are the positive qualities that we already have or those that we're working to achieve. We when we're doing affirmations, we're reminding ourselves that we're working on being a better person, and that's confidence building all by itself. We respect ourselves, we're proud of ourselves because we are putting into play an action or an activity that's going to move us forward, keep us positive, and get us those places we want to go. And the reminder of that effort in the form of affirmations is fantastic reinforcement that we're giving ourselves on a regular basis. Now, Is it just woo-woo, right? Is it just, oh, positive thinking, yay, I'll think positive and I'll be positive? Well, a little bit, but there's science behind it. Science says that neuroplasticity. Now, so for our planes, neuroplasticity is the ability to adapt and change. It is literally the ability to form new neural pathways, and make change or start something new. And the less plasticity you have, the harder it is to forge, right, that new neural pathway. And this ability to adapt is the key to why affirmations work. Now, the truth is, our brains have trouble distinguishing between our very rich mental imaging world and reality. I know. To the subconscious, what we tell ourselves and what is really happening, it's kind of all the same stuff. So the good news is, when you create this mental image of yourself accomplishing something, being something, doing something, it activates that part of the brain that having that actual experience would activate, it would feel, right? Your brain is activated the same way when you're imagining something happening, the same as if it were really happening. Powerful, right? So regular repetition of these statements of reinforcement or statements of affirmation convince your brain. And if you just say it one time, your brain's like, okay, maybe it happened. Say it twice, could have happened. Say it over and over and every day, brain's like, boy, this is true. This is going on. So maybe you say, I'm terrible at interviews. You're worried about a big interview. I probably don't even have the qualifications. They're not going to hire me anyway. I'm not the right candidate for this job. Well, maybe you replace that with, I have all the necessary skills and and experience that they're looking for. I am the perfect candidate for this job. Even further, add, I am grateful. I am grateful and thankful for finding exactly the right job for me, right? And then one step further, feel that great gratitude. Feel the excitement of getting the new job. Imagine and bring to the surface the feelings that are going to happen when this event happens with you. Now you've infused it. Now you're repeating it, and now your brain is accepting it as this is the reality I need to get busy making happen. And we would do it. The thing about affirmations is, I always like to talk about seeing the positive outcome when we worry, right? But this is even more powerful because now we're doing it proactively. We're doing it when our brain's in maybe a really great fresh state, when we're open and receptive, not already a little resistant because we're in a hole, in a deficit we got to get out of. We're starting from a clean slate, from ground zero, from maybe above ground, because we believe. And so this positive affirmation in a proactive format, again, is just convincing your brain it needs to get busy and bring this thing that it is sure is happening to fruition. Now, there is even MRI evidence that shows that neural pathways are changed and enhanced when people practice self-affirmations. The ventromedial prefrontal, we want to know where in our brain it's happening. It's the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that's involved in positive valuation and self-related information processing. This is the part of the brain that's going to make you or break you, right? It's the part of the brain that decides if you have value, it decides all kinds of. It is in positive valuation. What is good for us, right? Are we doing a good job? Self-evaluation, this part of the brain. And it becomes more active when we consider or think about our personal values, right? So there's this thing called, here's what I found really interesting. There's this thing called self-affirmation theory Okay, so someone has put a lot of thought and effort in studies, and this is all based on um, back with empirical studies, right? This isn't just some theory that Mr. Steele in 1988 made up, but actually put some empirical data behind it. There's 3 elements. It says, number 1, through self-affirmation. This is why affirmations work, right? Number 1, self-affirmation, because we are connected. It leaves us connected to a bigger picture, right? To the collective responsibility. We as a person see ourselves working to be better, working to make we want to be a better person so we can make the world a better place. And that connects us to all the effort that's going on all over. It lets us, it leaves us caring about more than just ourselves, right? And seeing improvement, not just right here, but for the whole world. We see ourselves as more, under this bigger picture, we see ourselves as more than just a daughter or a mother or a poet or the queen of happiness, right? It allows us to be open to the idea of being a positive and successful person. Now, secondly, because we do self-affirmations, it lets us leave perfectionism behind, right? Sometimes perfectionism can be absolutely debilitating, as we don't start things, or we don't do things, or we don't put things out there because they're not perfect. So this gives us self-affirmations give us the opportunity to embrace our gifts and acknowledge our shortcomings, right? We appreciate the things we have in the areas that we value. We're looking at it and we're patting ourselves on the back. We're acknowledging these things. And because we're working to be a better person, yes. And because we're working to be a better person, we know that we're flexible, moral, able to adapt. So we're a little bit better able to accept those shortcomings of, well, I'm not always on time, or sometimes I speak unkindly. Fall into perspective when you're acknowledging the good things. And then lastly, we live in integrity, right? By living the values that we're working to implement. Let's face it, affirmations are great, but nothing works by just thinking about them alone. If you're not putting into action the gifts you're asking for, or the feelings or the changes you're working on, if those aren't coming into action in your life, the words themselves aren't going to hurt you. There's an unspoken, or maybe even spoken, right, acknowledgement that, yeah, some work involved here. We're back to that 4-letter word. We're back to that idea that practice. It's a skill you're going to develop. Or if it's not work, it's at least action, right? You're putting into action the inspirations and the affirmations that you are currently talking about. We become our authentic selves by living, acting, thinking, aligning all of our values, all of our truths, and bringing them forward. And that's what affirmations are for, right? To allow you to bring those truths to reality, to the real world, out of your head into the world. And we're not just saying, you don't just say, I want to be a great grandma because I really love it when everybody tells me what a great grandma I am, right? No, I want to be a great grandma because I really want to have an impact in these young people's lives. That's the changes that can be made through. We want to act in ways consistent to our values. So you've tried affirmations and you've said, I tried those affirmations, Tina, and maybe they just didn't work for you. Or maybe they kind of work, or maybe they do work, but you just like them to work better. So let's talk about some ways I use affirmations, but I'm not as good with them or consistent as I like to be. So this list, when I did this list to talk about how to make affirmations work, I thought, I got to up my game on the affirmations, and maybe you want to too. So first, the idea is make them in the present, okay? As if they're already yours. The gift you're asking for is already yours. This is the point where we want to separate goals from affirmations, right? You want to act as if you've already succeeded. Act as if you have everything you are working to develop is already present in your life. It is. You're just trying to bring it to the surface, right? You're not kidding yourself. It is there. You just want to make sure you are finding it, you are feeling it, you are zeroing in on it. And remember, it's not a goal. A goal is something you are still working to achieve. An affirmation is reminding you of what you can do right now. And then be specific. A lot of affirmations out there. You can go out on the internet and type in positive affirmations and you'll get 55 affirmations, 125 great affirmations, 32 perfect affirmations for you. But it's okay to use them. I'm not saying don't use those lists. I'm just saying tailor them a little bit. If it doesn't sound like something you'd say, make it into something that sounds like something you would say. If it's not exactly what you're trying to accomplish, tweak the words and make it exactly right for you. Maybe you are having trouble at work right now, right? Maybe work is a little difficult for you. So you want to put your own affirmation together that says, I have wonderful coworkers who make me feel loved and appreciated at work, and I am making a difference every day. Right? That's what you want to have happen at work. So make an affirmation that suits exactly how you're feeling and what you want. Now here's a 5-step process for making your affirmations work that, okay, Joanne says, it's got to be said how you say to for your subconscious to recognize. Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you speak in some stilted language that's somebody else's words, your subconscious says, I don't know what you're reading, but right, it's got to be you talking to you. So I'm kind of glib, right? I'm a little disrespectful. My affirmations sound like me, right? But here's a 5-step process to make your affirmations even more powerful. I thought this was really a great idea when I read this. Number 1 is make a list of what you think are your negative qualities. I hate this part. Write down everything you've ever doubted about yourself. Include things maybe that others have said about you, right? Little things you've heard. Now, don't judge. You're not going to judge if these things are accurate or not. I feel like this, and it doesn't matter if it's true or not right now. We're just going for feelings, right? You are human, and so you have flaws. Simple as it can be. There's no two ways around it. So just embrace them, right? Just embrace those flaws and start writing them and acknowledge them. Look for themes. Look for themes in your list of things that you're not proud about, right? Maybe there's a theme like I'm not worthy, or I'm always the one at fault, right? Now, look at your list. This is a really unfun part of this exercise, and I totally admit that, but it's going to get fun later. Now, think about where in your body each statement I'll just use one of mine, for instance. I can be self-absorbed and forget to notice what's going on with the people around me. Now, I felt that in my gut. I'm just going to tell you, when I said those words, my gut clenched up. Put your hand where you feel that feeling. Sometimes when you say things, you're going to feel it in your heart. Sometimes you're going to feel it on your head. I don't know how to describe this, but you'll know the feel. This is one of those things, I can't give it to you, but you're going to know it when you feel it, right? We'll make a little note behind each one of these negative things. Where in your body do you feel this? Okay. Now, take each one of those flaws that you wrote down and write a positive statement. So I said, I sometimes am self-absorbed and don't really pay attention or not empathetic to the people that are right around me. So I could change that by saying something like, I am totally aware of my surroundings and I am tuned in to the needs, to the feelings, and to the emotions of everyone around me. You get it, right? We're just going to flip it. Maybe if you had the I'm not worthy theme, you might write yourself an affirmation around being worthy. I am remarkable and cherished. What are you trying? You want more love in your life? I am loved, cherished, and there are so many people in my life who lift me up and make me positive and keep me happy. Now, here's the next hard part. Say them out loud, 5 minutes a day, 3 times a day. Tina, that's a lot. 5 minutes. Do you know how long 5 minutes is? I do. It is a long time. Set the timer because it's hard to do. So you need to set the timer. And I don't know, finding 5 minutes of uninterrupted time is kind of a challenge sometimes. But again, remember, you say it to yourself once in the morning, I am worthy, I am adored and cherished. And your brain's like, meh, okay. But say it for 5 minutes 3 times a day. And if your brain isn't like, okay, 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 right? Now, if you, okay, so you're going to do it 3 times a day, morning, lunch, and evening. You know, you don't want to do it 15 minutes in the morning, right? You want to spread this out. Or now the best place to do this is looking in the mirror, looking your eyeballs, eyeball to eyeball, right? Or you might write it out. You might write it down while you're saying it. There's a lot of studies that the kinesthetic activity of writing is a big enforcer. It really locks things down inside. So it really sends the message home. And then you can notice over time, does that writing change? Do you see the writing change as the affirmations sink in, sink in, sink in? And then I'm going to just note that 5 minutes is an enormously long time to do anything. And if your affirmation isn't that long, you're saying it a lot. So maybe you start off the first time if that just seems overwhelming to you. And by the way, it does to me. Sitting down for 5 minutes and just saying, I am beloved and cherished, or whatever, over and over and over again, sounds daunting to me. So one of the suggestions was start with saying it 10 times. Even if it doesn't last 5 minutes, just start with saying it 10 times, each time for 3 times a day. Then the next day, say it 11 times. Then the next day, say it 12 times, until you work up to the 5 minutes. This is for those of us in affirmation training, right? And then step 4, anchor the affirmation in your body by placing your hand in the area that you identified as uncomfortable when you wrote down the negative statement. So I said, I am sometimes self-absorbed and I'm not aware of the feelings of the people around me. Gut. So to do my affirmation, I put my hand on my gut and I say, I am 100% present and aware of the emotions and the feelings of the people around, right? You can't see me. I got my hand on my stomach. But you're going to touch that area. And you're going to anchor that affirmation physically to your body. All right. The other part of this is breathe into the affirmation as you're saying it or writing it, right? Breathe in the affirmation, blow out, release out any negative feelings that you have around it. Breathe it in. Make it a part of your being, right? These aren't just words. The secret here is we're not just talking about words. We use words because that's the language that's available to us, right? Because abstract thoughts in the ether of your brain cannot take as specific action as when they are forced to come out and be articulated in the form of sentences and ideas that anyone can understand. Out of the ether into reality, right? That's what we're taking. Feelings in miasma into reality. That's the job of the affirmations, right? And then number 5. Number 5 step is have a close friend or someone you really trust read these affirmations to you. As they're reading them to you, visualize this as good mothering or good fathering messages. Feed the little child in your heart. Parent the little child living in your heart through these messages, and let the little child know these are parenting messages. These are loving, growing, helping you develop messages for that little tiny child that's down inside of each of us. I don't want to cry. I'm trying hard not to cry. Now, if you don't have someone to do this, right? Maybe that just sounds like that's too much personal to share with anyone, or you don't really have anyone you're comfortable sharing this part of your inner self with. That's okay. Use the mirror again. Say the words out loud, look into the eyes, and let that reflection in the mirror be your friend, your trusted guide that's going to help you internalize these messages deep into your heart, deep into that little being in there that needs to hear them. And internalize not just the words, but the emotions, right? The emotions that come from being loved and cherished and having whatever the affirmation is about, losing weight, making more money, doesn't matter. Someone cares enough about you to help you, to say these words to you, to believe in you. It's okay if that person is just your higher self. That's all right, right? There's someone there. There's someone there standing with your pack of spirit guides and guardian angels and ancestors and all the tools and resources available to you. It's all right to call on them to help remind you. Now, other than the fact that they work and that they, excuse me a second. My new cup, my new happy cup. Other than the fact that they work and that affirmations actually do help us improve and change, there are other benefits of daily affirmations. Of course, like all the things we talk about, doing daily affirmations can lower your stress level. What do you think about that? Lower stress level. It makes you more resilient, right? It gives you, you're girding yourself with strength every day. So it helps you to navigate through the less than wonderful moments of your day because you've like put on armor. You have had your protein drink. You are strengthening all the muscles you need to get through the day. It helps us respond in less defensive and argumentative ways. If I feel really great about myself and really positive, I don't need to be defensive. I don't need to make myself feel better at someone else's expense, right? That's what being defensive or argumentative is. It makes us more optimistic. We're positive. We're positive that things are working out for us because we are living that in our heads all day, every day, right? And it boosts our self-esteem and promotes self-confidence. And these are the things we're trying to develop. That's what self-affirmations are for, right? So remember, it's a new habit. Be patient with yourself. New habits are hard to learn, and we're not always great at implementing them perfectly the first time. They take, what's that word again? Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Work, work, work. But we are going to have to work on it. It takes time. It takes repetition. It may require some consistency to see results. Again, your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you tell it, but you're going to have to tell it more than once, consistently over time for it to begin to believe. And that may take a little bit of time. Be consistent in your routine. Whatever you do, this is the lesson in life that's coming to me right now, consistency in all things. This is the theme word that I keep. In fact, when I looked at my list of shortcomings, that was a big theme for me was no consistency, right? So now I have to practice consistency in order to bring consistency to the rest of my life. So it's a great example. It's a great exercise. It's a great opportunity. What do you want to bring into your life today? What skills, what feelings, what opportunities do you want to see in your life? Well, now you got a process. And as a process engineer, I'm going to tell you all you got to do is follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Process is nothing but a set of predetermined steps that you do in order to get a predetermined outcome. And you know the science is behind it. You know it works for other people. And you know it can work for you if you'll do the work for it. I like that. I like that. So that's our show today. It's great to be back. I couldn't be happier about doing Brewing Happiness every day this week, live and in person. All right. Until tomorrow, make it a happy day.